we're going to talk about your album that is coming out. It's super exciting. You've been working on it for a long time.
Yes, so long.
So long, he says with like anguish on his face. So I wanted us to dig into it. We're also going to get to hear you play, I hope, a couple of songs on
Yeah.
this podcast.
Let's
You're going
do
to
it.
play them for me.
I'm going to serenade you.
In the studio, and Brett,
Yes.
who you don't see. But I'm excited about that. But will you start out and tell us about the project? Like, tell us what it's called. Tell us a little bit about what this thing is that you're getting ready to release.
Yeah. So the album is called The Tunnel Club, and it's something I've been working on, in process. I was looking at the calendar the other day and literally started recording this project about a year ago. So it kind of, to give you a window into my world, it's taken me a year to get to this point almost where the record's almost ready to come out.
Yeah.
And it's been a labor of love, and I'm an independent artist, and so I've done albums before where I've had a label. Like my last full-length record was called Getting Stronger, and that was on a label, and the time frame was all much quicker. It was like sign the deal in January, have all the songs delivered to the producer by June. Album was recorded in July and out by October.
Wow.
So it's a much quicker, sped up process. But this, there's budget constraints, there's time, there's schedules, there's real life, because I have a full-time job and ministry, and then also I have this creative endeavor that I'm trying to work on. So, it's going to be out next month, May the 24th, and then we'll be doing a big release show after that on the 31st.
Yeah. So it's called Tunnel Club.
Yep, the Tunnel Club.
And the release show, by the way, we'll hopefully remember to say more at the end, but I'm going to say it now because I'm thinking about it. It's at the Cain Center for the Arts in Cornelius on May the 31st, Friday night. And there are still tickets available at the recording of this podcast right now.
Come on, y'all.
There are still tickets available.
Yep.
But we want to fill that place up and support you in this. So, all right, tell me about a little bit more about the album. Is it a worship album? Is it something different? And what? Talk about that.
This album has a bit of ADHD because it's all over the place. I am a worship leader. I write worship songs, but I also write love songs for my wife, or I write songs about my life, and I write about my relationship with God and what He's shown me through the years, or about experiences. And also, I try to be a good storyteller. And so, what I love is a good story. Somebody telling me a great story, and there's a couple of instances for this album that I've either heard about a story or somebody's told me the story from their life, and I was like, these are songs, and I got to write them down. So the answer is yes. This album is all over the place. I would categorize it as singer-songwriter. Definitely lives more in the folk territory, but also there's a rock song on it too. So it just it's all of my musical influences just coming out on one record.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's something for everybody.
So who are your musical influences?
I mean,
besides me,
I love listening to you sing. I grew up. My parents are older. My dad was 39 when I was born, so I grew up in the car listening to. Like, do you remember the show Super Gold? Did you ever listen to that on Saturday nights?
I did not.
It was.
I remember Solid Gold.
Solid Gold was more, I think, 70s and 80s. Well, Super Gold was like 50s and 60s. So I grew up listening to like Buddy Holly and Elvis and the Beatles, and then I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. So I definitely had a lot of 90s rock influences. Yeah. And then I got into college and went to App State and was surrounded by bluegrass and Americana. Yeah. And I also I love the Beatles. I love the Killers. I love Doc Watson. I mean, just all over the place. Yeah. And so I'm a bit of a musical chameleon. I love to play different styles. I love to listen to different styles. And so I think all of my music that comes out is like a conglomeration of all these different things, and how I have taken them in and then spit them back out in my own voice.
I'm curious, like if when you go back, like at what point can you recognize, or do you even recognize now those influences in your songs? Like can you go back and listen to a song and say, oh, that reminds me of this Beatles song or this Buddy Holly song, or is it more like, I don't know, what is that like?
Sometimes it's not until you've got the finished product where you're at least at the mixing stage where you start to hear, oh, I've double tracked these vocals, I've sung them twice, this is very Beatlesque, you know, or this song has these strings in it, and it's just piano and strings. It kind of reminds me of the band Muse and things like that. So you don't realize sometimes your influences until you've put something out and you have it in more of a tangible form where you listen back to it and you're like, oh, this is giving me this kind of vibe from this artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it like a sign of just a mature artist to be able to go, I've got my own style, but also I can see the influences of other people, because no one does this in a vacuum, and you're influenced by who you're influenced by.
Yeah.
I write because of people that I've read and stories that I've seen and movies that I've watched, probably, and so, but it's your own voice in it.
Yeah.
And I always think it's cool. Like, I hope one of the songs you're going to play in a minute is the one that I've always felt, the first time I heard it, I was like, this sounds like I hear some of the Killers in this song, because I really like the Killers too, but it doesn't, it's you, like it's you in the song, but you can sort of see these pieces, of other influences, which I think is really interesting about what you're doing. Okay, songwriting, like how does it happen? What is it? What does your songwriting process look like?
It's almost every time it's a little bit different, and sometimes it's a melodic idea that I just sing into my phone, or I just have been humming all day and I'm thinking, this is new, this is something I want to put words to. Sometimes it's literal words or phrases that I want to have. And then other times it's writing the name of the song at the top of the page and saying, at some point, I'm going to come back and I'm going to write me a song that's this name. And this is what it's called.
Sometimes you name it first, but sometimes you don't.
No, sometimes you don't know what it's named and it's called until afterward. And so it's always different for me, but I look at songwriting as a puzzle, because if I can get, in my mind, if I can get like a verse and a chorus, then I can come back and finish it later if it's worthwhile. I may not finish it that week or even that month, but if I have it in a form where I can come back and revisit it, I'm pretty certain I can finish it if I come back to it. And sometimes it's good resting and going away from something for a little while and saying, I'm going to revisit that and see if it's even worth my time, or if it's going to hit no one else's ears except for this set right here. So songwriting is a bit of a puzzle, because I feel if I have some pieces of it, I can come back and finish them later, and it's exhilarating when you finish something. I can't describe that feeling. It's just like one of the best feelings in the world is just to get something out, because I feel like when I'm I go through seasons of creativity, and I don't know if you're like that with your writing, but I usually it's in the fall for me for some reason, and I will I'll have maybe a bunch of ideas, and I'll look at my wife Rachel and say, I've got to go and do something. And she's really good about letting me say, all right, you're going to schedule this time and you're going to create. And it's actually good. The better I get, the more pressure that I put on myself, and maybe others have put on me to finish something. Because if at this point in my life, if my wife is going to take my 2 kids and go somewhere and give me time alone in the house, or let me go off to a cabin, or like I'll go to the beach when it's cold or something like that, like when I get back with them, I want to have something to present.
You gotta show the goods.
Here it is. I really did something, you know?
Well, I mean, can we just like give a shout out to for us, it's our wives to be able to help us create space for creativity and the support is, I don't know from a writing perspective if I would get anything done if I didn't know that Liz was supporting and encouraging me, and other creatives have that are producing something typically have people in their lives that are helping them.
Yeah.
That at some point, you do have to kind of go. You have to sort of go. Here it is. Here's what I've been working on, and with all that time and all those hours, and when you've given me this gift.
And it better be good.
It better be good.
It better be good. Can't be trash.
How do you get inspiration for your songs? Like, where's that coming from?
It is memories, life experience, conversations, or maybe it's a story, and there's a particular song that Rachel's grandfather, was sitting with me at a family get together, and he told me this story, and I was like, "That's a song. I got to finish that." There's another time where you're just kind of sitting there and you're evaluating maybe your past life and choices you've made, and there's lessons to be learned. And I think as an older, as you get older, you start to realize you have a little bit of wisdom to impart. But for me, the best way to sometimes do that is with melody and lyrics, and so those become songs. But it could be really anything. Inspiration comes from all over the place. Yeah.
Can you, will you sing us a song here?
Sure.
So there's a song that's on the new album called Young Forever.
Yep.
Do you anything to say about that song before you like where'd that come from? What's the song about, and where did it come from?
This song is about. I've always wondered what it would have been like to meet my wife in high school, and to date her during that time. We met in college, and we didn't date even until after college. But you look through each other's photos, and you get this little window into what it was like to be them or be with them in high school. And I just think, man, she's so cool. Like, she was so much cooler than me. She was the homecoming queen of her high school, and she was all these things. She played in a Christian ska band and toured all over the place. I think that's just the coolest thing ever. I don't even know.
If you don't know what Christian ska is, just go look it up.
Just Google it, and immerse yourself in the goodness that was Christian ska. So I just tried to come up with a scenario of what would it have been like to be in a moment with her where we're just talking about our future and what it could look like. And one day we'll be older and we'll be talking about this day, how cool it would have been to do that. Because when you're young and you I don't know how most guys are like this, where you're making promises you're not sure you can deliver on, but some of those moments, they just stay in your locked in your memory, and you can revisit them at all times. And so this song is really just me trying to create one of those moments that never really happened, but wouldn't it be cool if it had been? And this is how she makes me feel, and so that's what I wrote.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. Oh, I want to feel the heat of a warm summer night, standing on an empty street, silhouettes in moonlight, and you got everything I need. And I would make the world stand still, so the moment would last. Anything to keep an endless thrill in my heart beating fast. Oh, my sweet Carolina, oh, my sweet Carolina. Yeah, you make me feel like I'm young forever. You make me feel like it's now or never. One day we'll be older than we thought we could be now. gonna burn out bright. Let's stay right where we are. Oh, my sweet Carolina. Oh, my sweet Carolina. Yeah, you make me feel like I'm young forever. You make me feel like it's now or never. One day we'll be older than we thought we could be now. Oh, oh, my sweet Carolina. Oh, my sweet Carolina. Oh, my sweet Carolina. Oh, my sweet Carolina. Yeah, you make me feel like I'm young forever. You make me feel like it's now or never. One day we'll be older than we thought. You make me feel like I'm young forever. You make me feel like it's now or never. One day we'll be older than we thought we could be. One day we'll be older than we thought we could be. One day we'll be older than we thought we could be now. Oh,
Yeah. That's incredible, man.
Thanks.
That is seriously one of my favorite songs that I've heard from this album. I mean, I love it. It's got a great vibe and incredible lyrics. Dude, gives me chills.
Thanks.
Let me go back to something we talked about a minute ago, like this whole thing about being this not really being a worship album. You're also a Christian, you know, and so how do you look at spiritual things in the work that you've done here, and like how do you see God at work through the music that you've done, that you've created here, and how do you view yourself as like a Christian artist in the world with what you're kind of putting out there?
This is a good question. So I feel like we've been called to live as a Christian, a Jesus follower. You are called to live a lifestyle of worship, and so for me, music is such a big part of it. It's how I feel very connected to God, but also I feel like living a life that is worthy of this life He's called me into is also worshipful. Loving my wife is worshipful. You know, it's honoring God by doing what He's told me to, like being a good father and being a good friend and being a good husband. And so as an artist, I feel like there's a little bit of that in all the things that I write, all the things I create, all the music I make, and some of this music is directly from my heart to Him. Some of the stuff is from my heart to others around me, to bring them in. Like there's a song that I felt I had to be. If I was true to myself, I had to put this song "Promised Land" on the record, because this is what I do. And the whole song is about calling people into worship who might not feel like they're good enough, or they're they're worthy, or you may feel so far from God, but they may have deconstructed their faith completely, but to still call them back and say, you don't have to have all the answers, but he's drawing you to himself.
Yeah.
And so there's an element in all of my songs. I feel like I want to honor him, but also I want to make sure that I am explaining through my music, I'm a real person living a real life. He's put me here. And so to relate to everybody on a human level, write about human experiences, because we all have them.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I was just thinking as you were talking about this, there's this upcoming Sunday, as it relates to the timing that we're doing this podcast, one of the verses that we're talking about is from Colossians chapter 3, and it's verse 17. The whole chapter 3 of Colossians is amazing. One of my favorites in the whole all the scriptures. But verse 17 says, "Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through Him." And it's this idea that whatever we are doing can be worship.
Yeah.
Whatever song you're writing, whatever I'm writing, whatever I'm doing at home, or when I'm taking out the trash, or whatever I'm doing, it can be as if I'm doing that for the Lord. And it can look at in vastly different ways and vastly different things, and that's what makes it so incredible and interesting to be around creative people like you who are just doing what God has called them to do specifically. And it's so unique because it's you, and it's what God's doing and speaking and saying through you, and it's real and authentic, and I love that about your music, and I love that about you, that there's just this authenticity that's there that is Phil Hamrick, and that's a gift to the world.
Thanks.
That's a gift to the world, and it's a way of us seeing God at work through what you're doing. So I want to get you to play one more song, and I want to get you to tell the story of it. But first, I want to ask you how we can support you in this. Like what do you want for all the people who love you and followers and friends to do for you and for this album?
Yeah, well, it's different now in music. When I have this conversation all the time, is like it's a very expensive hobby because the business has just changed. And so streaming is the main place where streaming services are where people take their music in. But as a songwriter, as an artist, it's great to have lots of people know your music and listen to it, but it's very hard for that to trickle back to you.
Yeah.
And but I also still tell people, because I use it every day. I mean, listen. So as these songs come out, I've put a song or two out already from this album. Save it on Spotify or Apple. Save it and put it in your liked songs. Follow me as an artist. Put it in a playlist.
Those things actually matter.
They do, and I've seen it happen already.
Sometimes I don't think, that really matters. But those follow you on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever you're listening. Save it. Put it on your playlist. Try to add it to someone else's playlist.
Yeah, because the algorithm is a real thing. I don't understand it really, but we were talking about this earlier today. Well, the first single, I told people to do that on my email list, and people saved it and put it on their playlist. And all of a sudden, man, one day I looked down and that thing got like 3,000 streams in a day. I mean, which is a lot for me, for an independent artist. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so that's one way. Another thing is come to my release show on May 31st.
Yes.
Buy a ticket. Come to the show.
And they can buy tickets how?
You can buy it on the Cain Center website. You can buy it through my website, philiphamrick.com. There's a link there.
The Cain Center website is cainarts.org.
I think so. Sorry if we just sent you to a wrong site. But you can buy the seats
or
there.
philiphamrick.com.
philiphamrick.com will link you to it. Philip with one L. Like in the Bible.
Oh, the only way to spell it.
And another thing is at that show, I'm going to have I have done a small run of vinyl. So if you're a vinyl head and you like to listen to records the old school way, you could buy a record, a literal record.
Or if you want to buy a literal record and then just buy a record player.
You should.
Like me.
I don't even own one right now, so I have to get one myself.
You don't own a record player, and you're telling us to go buy a vinyl?
Yeah, but I know somebody who does. So
So okay, so let me recap that. We can go to the show for sure. Stream and save and add to playlists.
Yeah.
Share the word
Sure.
about the music, and buy vinyl. And I'll add one more. You may not want to do this. I don't know. Schedule you for a like a house show.
Yeah, I love house shows. Those are fun.
Yeah. All right. So you're gonna do one more song. So
Yeah.
It's the title track, as they say.
Yes.
What's the story behind Tunnel Club?
So maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was at a family get together at Rachel, my wife's grandparents' house, and they had this. At the time they had this grand, awesome house, old house in Shelby, North Carolina, and they had a great fireplace. And so after the meal, I was sitting there with her grandfather, Dr. Dick Bowling. He's a surgeon for years and years, but he's just the guy who can captivate a room with a story. And so we're sitting there, and it's just me and him. He starts telling the story about hitchhiking. And I lean in a little bit because you don't really talk to many people who have ever hitchhiked in their life or know somebody who has. But he starts telling me this story about that's just the way you went places. And so he went to...
Shouldn't try this now, right?
Don't do this now. You will absolutely die.
You will get killed.
But he went to Wake Forest University when it was in Wake Forest, the town.
The town in Wake Forest.
Yeah, over east of Raleigh, right?
Yes, that's right.
Someone told him, if you want to make money during the summer, you need to get out to Oklahoma and work on a wheat combine. And so he thought, that's a great idea. So in the summer, he gets back to Shelby, and he tells his parents what he's going to do, and he sticks his thumb out. And he gets to Oklahoma, and I kid you not, he got to Oklahoma in 2 rides. He thumbed from Shelby to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then from Chattanooga to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Wow.
I know. And he said the crazier thing was the same person picked him up twice. They saw he was a failure in Chattanooga and picked him up and went on west, and they took him again. Somebody talks about this thing called the Tunnel Club. And the Tunnel Club essentially was, there was a railroad right outside, parallel to this road by the country club. And the Tunnel Club was, you went down the railroad and there was a tunnel going through the mountain. On one side is West Virginia. On the other side of this tunnel, on the other side of the mountain, is Kentucky. And so the game was, you would run through the tunnel at night, come out in Kentucky, and come back through the tunnel to West Virginia, and then you were a member. So this sounds like a great idea, he tells me. He goes out with a bunch of guys, and they go through the tunnel, and they get through all the way to Kentucky side, and they're coming back through to the West Virginia side, and they hear the train a-coming. He looks at the tunnel, and it's just wide enough for the train. There's no getting out of this except for running. And so they pick up an old guy, by the way, who was with them, who was never going to make it. They had to run back and get him. They pick him up, and they all jump out in the West Virginia side just ahead of the train.
You're going to play it for us.
Yeah. Try to tell a little bit of the story here.
I've got the name of your next album, by the way. Drinks Were Had and Stories Were Told. Write that down.
I will write that.
This is the Tunnel Club, y'all.
Yeah. See if I can play it here. There was 50 years between us, but that vanished in a flash as he sat beside the fireplace telling stories from his past. And I could see into his eyes with all the embers glowing red. So I poured another glass and lived on every word he said. And he said, when I was young, I went across the South, sticking out my thumb, and life along the road can be tough, but running from that train is how I ended up in the Tunnel Club. He thumbed his way to Oklahoma, where he looked to harvest wheat. But the crews had hired their workers, and he was back out on the street. And with no prospects for a job, he finally had to turn around. Stuck his thumb out pointing east, and laid his suitcase on the ground. He fought some drunks along the highway who had given him a ride. They tried to shake him down for money until he pulled his Bowie knife and hitched a ride to West Virginia with a trucker hauling beans. He got out in an apple orchard and took a nap among the trees, and this was when he was young and very far from home, sticking out his thumb and life along the road. It can be tough, but running from that train is how he ended up in the Tunnel Club. Ooh, and a salesman picked him up along the way and gave him a clean shirt and a room where he could stay. And over drinks and dinners, stories were told of a club you could join if you were so bold. There was a tunnel through the highway where the railroad passes through. It emerges in Kentucky and is what you had to do. You ran from one side to the other in the darkness of the night. Turn around and make it back through in the West Virginia side. Well, that tunnel was just down the road, and he went with the crowd. And they were halfway through that mountain when they heard the whistle sound. And with that engine breathing down their necks, they made it out alive, jumping out into the freedom of the West Virginia night. There is a time to run into the light, a time to run away. There is a time to stick your thumb out, and a time when you should stay. And back home in Carolina, by the embers glowing red, I sat my empty glass aside and lived on every word he said. When he said, when I was young, I went across the South, sticking out my thumb, and life along the road can be tough, but running from that train is how I ended up in the Tunnel Club.
Yeah. It's so good.
There's a lot of words in that song.
That's a lot of words. That is a lot of words.
Huh.
I hope tons and tons of people hear that song. Brother, you're gifted.
Thank you.
And thanks for sharing that with me today, but thanks for sharing that with the world. So you're going to release this May 24th, the Tunnel Club album. It's going to be out there for everybody to get.
Yep.
So make sure you pick it up. Make sure you grab it. Make sure you play it a lot. Make sure you share it with your friends. And grateful for your gifts and
Thanks,
all that you got going on. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.